Hello, I'm going to let you know that you are the most important. And yeah, how can that be? How can you be the most important? You can only be the most important if you have embodied language. So, and this is not to say that that you're trying to be important. Hello. Oh, listen. Hey, you come with me. That is a I don't know, a wild dog or a dog that is just running around. I was connecting with him and he was looking at me and he was saying like, "Oh, you're gonna take me?" Somebody abandoned this poor dog and now he's just running around. But that dog perhaps is very good symbol to use as a way to describe you when you do not have embodied language, because you are lost, you are abandoned, you are confused, you do not know where you're going, and you have no direction. And yeah, you can say that's just the way it is, but when you do what I do, when you begin to become important enough to yourself, because that's really what it is, when you become important enough to yourself to begin to speak with yourself. Yeah, it's not the other people who are important, no. You stop listening to them, you stop talking with them, because in order to do what I'm doing, you gotta do that. You gotta stop listening to others, even stop listening to me, if you want to be able to talk with yourself and listen to yourself. It's just a fact. So that is only going to happen if you are important enough to yourself, if you matter enough to yourself, if what you say makes enough sense to you, yeah? So if what you say doesn't make any sense to you, well, it simply means that you just don't matter enough to yourself, yeah? And let's say, for instance, you are confused. Let's say you have a big problem. Let's say you can't figure it out, yeah? Well, you gotta be busy with your problem, with your trouble, because you matter to yourself. But you don't. You can't. And why is that? Well, you don't listen to yourself. You only begin to matter to yourself if you talk with yourself, if you listen to yourself, if you hear yourself. And I know you don't want to hear that. I know that I'm repeating this, and I know that you probably go like, well, there he is again. But no, this is the issue. The unavoidable issue. The issue that you have never attended to. The thing you have been avoiding. You've been busy with all kinds of things except this. And yeah, there is of course the false way in which you supposedly matter, yeah? Because yeah, you can make yourself important, more important than others, yeah? And then you are just in competition with others, because yeah, you are supposedly more important. Yeah, either that, or you feel like, oh, I'm so unimportant, nobody cares about me, and yeah, other people are getting the attention I don't, and then you begin to supposedly matter because you feel sorry for yourself. Yeah, you matter because you are a victim. You matter because you play the victim card. Yeah? Oh, now you really matter. Or you are angry, you're frustrated, you're upset, and you raise your voice. Oh yeah, you matter. Oh, do you really matter? No, you still don't matter to yourself. Yeah? You only begin to matter to yourself if you hear yourself and if you speak with yourself in such a way that you begin to listen to yourself and that you begin to understand yourself, that you begin to be yourself in your language. You were not really yourself when you were using your language, as I've said many times. When you're not listening to yourself, you're using your language incorrectly. So as long as you were using your language incorrectly, you weren't listening to yourself, you couldn't be yourself. Yeah? So, make no mistake, you have never been yourself with your language. You couldn't be yourself. And only when you begin to listen to yourself and speak with yourself in such a way that you're now willing to listen, that you are beginning to listen, that you realize that listening to yourself is important, because that is when you begin to take yourself serious. That's when you begin to take your language serious. And you do not become important if you do not take your language serious, if you do not take your use of your language serious. Yeah? And that is not having anything to do with how you compare yourself to others. As a matter of fact, you gotta completely stop your comparison to others, because it has nothing to do with others. This is all about you. So, yeah, I know about this. And if you listen to me, you hear me say what I'm saying, and you know that it is true. Yeah. So I just want you to, you hear this, you decided that you wanted to listen to this video, okay? While you're listening to this video, this is what I want you to do. I want you to say to yourself, and just say it. Say to yourself, I am important. Just say it. Say to yourself, I am important. And say it a couple of times. And say it like you mean it. You're not trying to mean it. You're not trying to be serious about yourself. No, you are serious about yourself. So use my suggestion, use my support, because I support you. Of course I support you. Everybody needs to do this. You are important. Yeah? And you need to be important to yourself in the way that I say. Not in the way that you are important to yourself or supposedly important with yourself when you have disembodied language, yeah? When you're trying to outdo others and when you're in competition with others. That's not the importance that I care about. That's actually a denial of your own importance. As long as you are in conflict with others, as long as you are, having this fight with them about who's the best. You're not important to yourself as long as you're comparing yourself with others. So you gotta stop that. And so when you say to yourself, I am important, you are not doing anything of that anymore. And yes, you can also repeat that too. And you can say to yourself, I'm not doing that anymore. Just repeat it a couple of times. Just repeat it. And agree with yourself that that's not where your importance is. And of course, you have misunderstood yourself. Yeah? You've misunderstood who you are. You believed that in all this struggle that you have been involved in, all this arguments, you've believed that in all this stuff that you've gone through, that is where your self-importance was. This is where you believed you were true to yourself. Well, no, you were not true to yourself. You begin to be true to yourself once you start to speak with yourself, listen to yourself, and hear that what you say is not only true, but what you say sounds good. What you say, you want to hear. You want to hear. Do you hear me? You want to hear what you have to say to yourself. You want to hear what you're saying to yourself. You want to hear yourself say that you are important. Yeah? So say again, as I'm saying, I am important. I am the most important. You are the most important to yourself. Yeah, I am the most important to myself. Say that and hear that, and make yourself realize that this is really absolutely true. And it couldn't be otherwise. Other people couldn't be as important to you as you have been to yourself. Because this is not only something that you are saying now and something that you are realizing now. This has always been the case. You have always been the most important person to yourself, and yet you've been in complete denial about that. And now, yeah, here at this moment with me, you are not in denial about that, and you are hopefully realizing that you need to do this. If you do not do this, your embodied language is not going to happen, cannot happen. Yeah? It hasn't happened, it couldn't happen. So, yeah. This is a big deal. You are the most important person to yourself. And yeah, there cannot be two of you. Yeah? So when you say this to yourself, you cannot have any kind of disconnect. There cannot be any distortion, any distraction. You are who you are only if your language fits with what you say. And if you believe what you say, not want to believe, no. You're completely one with what you're saying. And you have to say this also. Have to, not have to, but you want to, yeah? You're completely confident that this is what you say. This is what you say to yourself when you are important. This is how you speak when you are important, when you matter. This is what comes out of your mouth. These are the words you use. This is how you sound. Yeah. And, yeah, it goes on. When you have said what I am just telling you to say, and I'm not telling you to say this verbatim, you can say whatever the hell you want to say to yourself, okay? You don't need to repeat me. That's not what this is about. But you need to tell yourself that you are important in one way or another. Your own way. And when you've done that, yeah, when you've done that, when you are doing that, because it is not only, yeah, when you're doing that, you realize like, wow, I'm doing that. I am doing that. You know that you are doing that. And when you've done that, you know that you've done that. You know that what you're experiencing after you've done that is what you're experiencing is the outcome of having done that. Yeah? There's no question about it. Yeah. Yeah. So and you need to sit with that after you have done that. And you need to sit with that also while you're doing that. Yeah. So while you're talking with yourself and while you're saying to yourself, I am important, you need to sit with that. You need to experience how important that is. Yeah. Don't talk over yourself. Don't go too fast with your language. And don't go too slow. Catch up with yourself. Where are you? What's going on? Who are you? What's going on? What can you say about yourself that makes you feel that you are yourself? That makes you realize that, oh, I can use my language in this way. And then I am in charge of my language. Yeah. Because that's what is at stake here. That is what is, yeah. You use your language to your advantage. Yeah. So. And what we are talking about here, yeah, embodied language. Embodied language is primarily the way of speaking in which you listen to yourself while you speak. So, and this particular way of talking is not common. It's nowhere to be found. Once you begin to talk like this, you realize like, wow, I am doing this, but nobody else does. And that's an inevitable conclusion because it's a fact that you need to consider. A fact that you need to acknowledge if you want to be able to continue with your embodied language. Unless you are going to talk with yourself, unless you are going to take time for yourself to be able to talk with yourself, unless you become really, as I was saying, the important person that you are, who you are, you become the important person who you are, or become. You are the important person who you are when you have embodied language. So, you gotta do this. If you don't do it, it is not gonna happen. Yeah. And so, this issue, having embodied language, instead, of course, because it comes in the place of your disembodied language, you were having disembodied language. You were not listening to yourself. Yes, you were talking with others and you were listening to others. And you were busy with language. Maybe you were reading, maybe you were writing. Maybe you were talking, maybe you were listening. But you were not busy with yourself. You were not listening to yourself. And so in your disembodied language history of conditioning, there's no opportunity for you anywhere to have this. If you have had anything that was like this, what I'm talking about, if there was a moment for you to have a little bit of what I call embodied language, you weren't having it because you were important. You may have felt a little bit like that. You may have felt it. Wow, that was wonderful. You may have felt momentarily very happy, very clear. You may have felt like, wow, I wish this continued. I wish it could always be like that. You may have felt that, but that didn't make it last. That didn't make you have embodied language. That didn't result in you being important to yourself. To the contrary. If you would have had these moments that I'm describing, and of course you've had these moments because they are natural. These moments are naturally occurring because this is what we unknowingly all want. And what we unknowingly all are trying to create. And yet we fail again and again and again. And that is of course because we are inadvertently addressing our disembodied language with disembodied language. And we do not address our disembodied language with embodied language. And that's the only way in which we can really gain true understanding of what's going on here. So even though you have had these moments, these glimpses, what you call them, yeah. Of course, every human being has these moments. But you couldn't continue with it. You've never continued with it. And even if you were lucky enough to have more of these moments than others, yeah, which of course happens to some people because they are more open to it, they are more receptive. Well, guess what? The more receptive you are to it, the more urgent it becomes to be like this. And the more frustrating it becomes when you cannot be like this. Yeah, that's the truth. And the more upsetting it is to know that you fail again and again and again. Yeah. Until you become important to yourself And you can just say, wow, yeah, there's really no big deal, because I just caught myself having another little episode, another little diatribe of disembodied language. And yeah, catching myself not listening to myself is of course absolutely necessary to be able to stop my disembodied language. How else am I supposed to have embodied language if I do not catch myself? If I do not catch up with the fact like, oh, I wasn't listening to myself. I wasn't speaking with myself. How could I listen to myself if I wasn't listening, if I wasn't speaking? Yeah? How could I listen to myself if I was never speaking with myself? Yeah? How could I begin to listen to myself if I never spoke with myself with the purpose to hear myself, with the purpose to regulate myself, with the purpose to understand myself, to let myself know who I am? This is such a huge misunderstanding about how we use language, which is all maintained by our disembodied language, in which listening to somebody else is more important than listening to yourself. Yeah, and in which making other people listen to you is more important than listening to yourself. Yeah. Okay. Do you get it? Do you get it? I know this is a big thing. I'm just gonna sniff my nose here a little bit. Sorry. Okay. This is the park where I am right now. And it's an early Saturday morning. And I'm important to myself, as you can tell. Yeah. How am I able to make all these recordings? How am I able to say what I'm saying? How can I be so laser focused about this? How can I be so convinced about this? I wasn't always like that, but I have become very important to myself. Yeah. And that accumulative effect of your own embodied language, it is going to reveal itself if you're going to do it, but you haven't done it. And you couldn't do it, yeah? You didn't have the right information. No, you were disinformed about your communication, yeah? You were misinformed. You never have even addressed this issue that I am addressing. And so you have all the time not overlooked it, but you have never listened to yourself. So it has nothing to do with looking, it has to do with listening. And yeah, this so-called self-observation, which is involved in listening to yourself, has nothing to do with an observation. It is self-listening. Yeah? Self-listening. And self-listening only makes sense if there is self-speaking. Yeah? And speaking, of course, has nothing to do with a self. Yeah? There's not a me inside of me that speaks. There's just speaking. So self-speaking is actually a word that is weird. There's no self that speaks. There's just speaking. Yeah? There's not a self who rides my bicycle. Here, I'm going to ride my bicycle again. There's just riding my bicycle. And there's just your behavior. Yeah? Any behavior you are involved in is just happening because it can happen. And this is a very important principle, that everything that can happen will happen if you not let it happen, but if you speak with yourself and let yourself know that it is so. Yeah. You are, in that sense, truly creating your own reality. And yes, you live in your own reality. That will be always the case. You are the one who is experiencing the world, yourself, others, in the way that you experience it. And you are the one with your language who talks about it in this way. You are the most important person in your life. And yeah, of course there's no you and your life. You are alive. And your life is happening right now in your language while you speak with yourself. You hear it. And you say it. And you feel it. And that's how your language comes alive. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Are we getting somewhere? Do you, while you listen to this, do you get a sense that you are important? That you have to be important? And yeah, you can go wrong again, of course. Yeah, everybody goes wrong in their need for approval, in their need to be accepted, in their need to be important. Everybody totally gets this wrong. So, you gotta say that. And, morning. You gotta say that, and you gotta admit that, and you gotta let yourself know that was not the way in which I wanted to be important. Yeah? By being a drag, by being a monster, by being evil. That's not how I wanted to be important, no. And I didn't want to be important by being a martyr. Yeah, that is stupid. Yeah, sacrificing myself. Oh yeah, oh he's giving, he is so giving, she's so giving. No. You didn't want to give yourself away like you've always done. You didn't want to sacrifice yourself as you've always done. You didn't want to lose yourself as you've always done. You have to admit that. You have to let yourself know that no, yeah. You wanted to be important and yeah, okay. You made yourself do all these things so that other people would see you that way and that you could have the illusion that, oh yeah, you're so important. No, you were not important, okay? You were just pretending to be important. Oh yeah, you're such a hot shot. You're so great. You're so powerful. You're so smart and so... You were in charge. Oh yeah, really. Everybody had to praise you. Everybody had to love you. Everybody had to look up at you. You were such a great person. No, you were not. You were not a great person. You were not even important to yourself. You didn't even know who you were. Yeah, you've never known who you were with your disembodied language. Yeah. That's a nice little scene. The sun is coming through. A nice moment. The last time I rode my bicycle here, I went for a little walk here and then I got such a big bite. My whole forehead was itchy and bulgy. So I'm not gonna walk there today. Good morning. Yeah. Now, I believe I've said enough. But I want to let you know what it is like to be important, and then you are as important as I am. You are as important as I am to myself, yeah, because I'm not important to anyone and I don't need to be. Yeah, I don't care about being important in the eyes of others. I care about my self-importance only as it relates to my embodied language. And I hope that you begin to have some in 2025. Yeah, I hope you begin to verify what I'm saying, because yeah, I don't care about whether you believe me. I don't care, yeah, to be praised by you for my embodied language. That's not what this is about. Yeah, I don't care to have followers or something like that. That's not what this is about. But I do care about whether you are able to get what I'm talking about. And I am absolutely sure that you can do it. I'm absolutely sure that you will be benefited from it. I'm absolutely sure that it's possible. But there's things that you need to do. And so 2025, that is your year or your time to get your act together. And then perhaps in 2026, yeah, we are going to have this conversation together. Because, yeah, I have lived my life the way I had wanted. And I have no regrets about anything I've done. Everything I've done was always to have this. And so I have had conversations with many people about this, and I've given groups, I've given seminars, lectures, I've given classes. Many people should already know about this because of everything that I've said over the years about this. And everything is available on my videos, on my blog, and on my X account. Anybody can read it or hear it, take note of it. But I admit, I have had to figure out how to go about this, and I'm figuring it out. I'm figuring it out as I speak. And you will figure it out too as you speak. There's only one way to figure it out, and that is to figure it out as you speak. Yeah. Now, that seems like a beautiful end of this particular video. Okay, I'm just gonna stand here in the sun for a little bit. All right.